I think there's a goat out there somewhere. So Adam, where are we going today?
We're headed to beautiful Baltimore, home of The Wire and Rabbis Without Borders.
Are we going to the Pearlstone Conference Center in Reisterstown, Maryland?
Oh my God, it's going to be so good.
I hope the food is kosher. What are we doing there, though? Are we going to Rabbis Without Borders retreat?
Rabbi camp.
Yeah.
What's more fun than Rabbi camp?
Boy, do we know how to live. What is Rabbis Without Borders?
I am going to find out, I think, along with you.
Okay, me too.
Do you know what we're getting ourselves in for?
I don't. There are people that I trust and respect have done this before. And I've been learning off and on with the rabbis from Clal for several years now. I think from my first year at Ziegler, whenever they were there for Shir Clali, I would go to their stuff. Rabbi Hirshfield, Rabbi Kula, Rabbi Sirbu, et al., Tzafi Lev. He's a rabbi without a border. Alon Babchuk, schoolmate of ours, is also a rabbi without a border whatsoever. But as far as I could tell, they're big into positive psychology.
Yeah.
Teaching Judaism as a public good. We've had to do some reading ahead of time. Rabbi Brad Hirshfield's "You Don't Have to Be Wrong for Me to Be Right." Here's another article. Good thing it's a long flight. And what have you got over there?
I have a 250-page study on American Jewish life from the Pew Center.
Wow, you printed it out. I just looked at the graphs.
I printed it out and brought a highlighter and everything.
That's amazing. So what did you...
Very high GPA.
What did you learn from this?
That we're in interesting times.
Okay.
Yiddish blessing, right?
As a Yiddish blessing or a Chinese curse?
Something like that.
Okay.
Interesting times.
So are Jews different from everybody else?
It seems like we are doing roughly the same issues as everybody else.
Okay, what are those issues?
I'm only about 50 pages into the report.
Okay, and you're already terrified, I can tell.
I think getting there. It's talking about the decline in religious affiliation in America, rise in some of the extremes, the decline in mainline Protestantism, and rise in evangelical Protestantism. And actually, the only news I've seen so far about Jews is that we actually grew in the last 7 years as a share in the American population, and that together with the Hindus, we have a lot more college degrees.
Okay.
So this has all been good news about the Jews so far.
Good news about the Jews. I also saw what we share with the Hindus is a higher proportion of our people don't believe in God.
Or gods.
Or gods, as the case may be. Can you be a multiple atheist? Maybe.
I'm also
sort of
going
a
to this thing to hang out with you.
I'm so flattered.
I mean, you're pretty cool.
I was going to go anyway, but then I heard you were going, and that was just like icing on the cake.
Oh, high five. This is Mayor. We've been hanging on.
All right.
There you go.
We got a long, let's not jump right into making out. We've got a long trip together, Adam.
Yeah, and I already heard you had quite a security experience.
That was like a date.
Oh, no.
My goodness gracious.
Dates were better than that.
I hope so, too. And they started with the touching, and then the bag. It's usually the bag and then the touching. We're going to have a lot to talk about over the next few days, so I'll catch you on the flip-flop.
Baltimore.
Adam, how was your flight? I also did some sleep and some of my reading. If they test us, I will say, what does X concept of religious pluralism, how does that account for the rising tide of people of no religion that I learned about in the Pew report?
Wow, that would be a sophisticated question.
Right. Well, and how I would answer that is, one report doesn't have to be wrong for the other one to be right. Synthesis. There's nothing quite like the thrill of opening a conference packet for the first time. It's my name. What's this? Here's the Rabbis Without Borders Fellowship schedule. Action-packed week. There's a pad of paper and a pen for taking notes. Over here, we have a name tag. I'm going to put that on right away and wear it for the duration of my stay. There is a map, some Jewish rabbinic texts to learn. That's from the Talmud, that's from Midrash, and more Torah to learn. There's some interesting statistics on the American religious landscape from the Pew report. What jobs do we hire religion to do for us? Familiar with the PERMA model from Dr. Martin Seligman's work on happiness and well-being, and every conference needs a good conference review, or a review. Whether it's good or not, we'll see in a couple of days. Couldn't be more excited to be attending the Rabbis Without Borders as John Carrier. Here I am in my cabin at the Pearlstone Jewish Retreat Center. Cabin's more like a hotel room, which is nice. I've got this great view, you just have to take my word for it, of a prairie or woods or something. I think there's a goat out there somewhere. We're in a rural area outside of Baltimore, Maryland for the next few days in order to get together with people from different organizations, different denominations within Judaism, and talk about what it means to be a rabbi without borders. I will fill you in as I learn. What I know about the program is that it's been run several years out of Clal, the Center for Learning and Leadership in the Jewish community. And I'm super excited to be here. And one thing I like to do whenever I'm starting a new learning opportunity, a new job, which is usually a learning opportunity, or starting a new school program, going on a trip to a place I've never been, is I like to record my expectations. That's one way in which we learn most, is to process an experience in light of what our expectations were, figure out what surprised us, because those things that surprise us is where we're growing. If we already know what to expect and then we get what we expected, then one could say maybe we haven't really learned anything. I mean, you learn the stuff that you get. Don't argue with me. So before this conference really kicks off, I've got to be at the first thing in like 5-10 minutes. I wanted to take a minute to record my expectations of this trip, and we'll see how those bear out. I expect that it's going to be really solidly run. I have been learning with the rabbis of Clal for about 8 years now, formally, informally, in classes with them, over lunches and dinners with them, reading books that they've written, articles that they've shared. And I really dig their mission of teaching Judaism as a public good. There's wisdom in our tradition that can help people within our tradition and outside of our tradition as well. And as rabbis, we have the power to pass that wisdom along. I think we're going to learn generally why that's an important thing. I think we're going to get specific tools and suggestions as to how to go about doing that. I'm coming into this with a particular project of my own called The Promised Life, and you'll learn more about that in future videos. But I want to really flesh this idea out. I think this is an excellent place to do it, and I'm really hoping I can get some one-on-one time with the teachers here and some good one-on-one time with the other students here. I expect that I'm going to be totally humbled by the crowd of rabbis that they've assembled for this cohort. I know 3 or 4 of them personally, people I went to school with at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies. Cha-ching! Rabbi Adam Greenwald, Rabbi Uri Allen, Rabbi Scott Shafran, some other people from LA that I haven't met yet. So I'm looking forward to making those connections that I can then take back, and just meeting a really stunningly talented and creative group of rabbis doing some important work in the world, sharing what little I know that they don't, maybe, about getting the message out through YouTube, etc. Things that I've learned as a congregational rabbi over the last almost 3 years that might help them. But I think, as in most situations like this, I'm going to learn so much more than I teach, and that's why I consider this thing a great gift. It's totally unfair. So those are my expectations going in. It's about 5 minutes till the first thing, and I got to make a couple phone calls first, so I'm going to peace out for now. That's where I am, the Pearlstone Retreat Center. I am walking the plank to this beautiful lodge where I think our learning and probably eating is going to take place. Pretty excited to meet everybody. See, now, if you're getting dizzy, it's because I'm in a rocking chair. I just had dinner. It was a fantastic dinner of falafel and olives and feta and tahina and all sorts of great stuff. And there was cheesecake there, which I'm pretty sure was left over from Shavuot, but I wasn't going to say anything because it was delicious. But now I'm in a rocking chair. And now I know I'm on a retreat. Look at this place. Look at this beautiful place out here. There's flowers and nature and stuff. It's not as nice and dry and temperate as Los Angeles, but Los Angeles, you don't get all this greenery like you get here. So I really feel like I'm on a learning vacation. I'm on kind of a retreat. And, you know, just because it's called a retreat doesn't mean you're running away from something. And if you are running away from something, that can be okay too, because they have rocking chairs. And I will say, so far, so good. No serious, in-depth Torah scholarship happening just yet. Mostly reconnecting with old friends, making some new friends, breaking the ice a little bit, talking about ourselves, and which I hate doing, especially on the internet. God willing, some people here will indulge me by sharing some of their stories with this YouTube channel, because these are some really fascinating people who are in synagogues, people who are in education, people who have their own online Hebrew learning companies. They got a little cheesecake right there. Yeah, that's what that was. So some really fascinating people, some really wonderful teachers here already, and it's just going to get better from here. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, existential questions, I see. My name is Brad Hirshfield, and I serve as president of Clal. We use the phrase making Jewish a public good, which means taking 3,500, 4,000 years of a people's story and its traditions and its wisdoms, and making them as widely available to as many people as possible in as many ways as possible to construct the lives they feel most called to lead and leave the world a little better off than they found it.
Yafe. Now, that was probably a little heavier than I was going for, but you do you, all right?
Big tasks, in my experience, you can never do alone. I can't think of any great project that was ever accomplished that didn't require lots of hands at the table. And when it comes to the use of Jewish tradition, especially in America, Americans, whether they like church or synagogue, they love their clergy. We need partners and co-creators. And so Rabbis Without Borders is a network of co-creators who have some sense of that kind of use of Jewish. They are really grounded wherever they call home, but they know that that's their job. Their service is to the entire Jewish people, and if they're really lucky, to humankind.
I'm just going to chill here for a few more minutes before we go and talk about objects that we brought. We were supposed to bring an object that we consider Jewish, but other people might not consider it Jewish. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Things that are very Jewish to me, but not to anybody else. What was the goal of the work that we did today?
The first stage of entry into RWB, I guess, so the context counts. And what we mean by that is that there's no such thing as an idea or a principle that floats independent of the lives of the people who live that principle. It doesn't mean that there's nothing stable or nothing eternally meaningful. It just means whatever we mean by stable and eternally meaningful is defined in the context of the people who will stake their lives on it. And the more people who can experience that, the better. I hope that people realize that the same event in a different time can have a different meaning. That the same object in the hands of a different person can have a different meaning. And that it's not zero-sum. It's not that because it means this in that context, in that in the other context, it's only 50% meaningful in each. The real gift of context is that no, it's 100% meaningful in that way in one time, and another 100% meaningful in a different time. But the same object that we put on a pair of tefillin, it means 100% to one person on a certain day. And another person standing right next side to them, a different 100%. Because with these kinds of things, you know, that's the metaphysics of all this, is that it's not zero-sum, and that something can be fully one thing and fully another at the exact same time.
Can you give us a little sneak preview as to what's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow is that actually we're not alone in this, that what's going on in Jewish life is actually a reflection of and could be a contributor to what's going on across the American spiritual landscape. And the teaser for that is the fastest growing group religiously in America, the so-called nuns. And I think the trick is to remember,
right?
Yeah, they're not the Catholic religious, right. N-O-N-E-S. And the trick is to remember that nuns are not nothing. They're a whole bunch of new somethings that are coming down the road, and that we rabbis, at least, are crazy enough to believe this thing called Torah could help them get to where they want to go.